We are so delighted to be speaking to two of the heroes in the United States because they are the ones who are the whistleblowers and who have let the rest of the world know that R. Kelly, a mega star, has in fact a history of sexually abusing girls.
This year we have created the Voice for the Voiceless Award, and we are honored to have Jim and Mary be the first reporters to receive this award. Jim DeRogatis is a music critic who has background in investigative journalism, and it is due to that kind of combination of his background that he was able to bring this case to the forefront of the public's attention. Mary Mitchell is a columnist at the Chicago Sun-Times and has spent her career writing about issues facing the Black community in Chicago. Her combined with Jim were really the perfect people to bring this story to light. Jim could get the story out there to the larger community, and Mary was able to speak to the Black community in Chicago where a lot of the abuses of R. Kelly were taking place.
In my job as a columnist, I kept running across stories of young Black girls being sexualized. I started doing social justice issue stories where I was talking to girls who were 14, 15 years old, and guess what? Their boyfriends were in their 20s. They were having children by guys who were much older, and statutory rape had gone out the window. Nobody even talked about statutory rape. That's how I started writing about young girls and older guys. Then came along Jim DeRogatis.
I'm at the Sun-Times. Mary's a colleague. Roger Ebert is doing all things movies. I'm doing all things pop music. And I got this fax in response to a record review. I had compared R. Kelly on his 5th album to Marvin Gaye. And the fax said Marvin had his problems, but they were nothing like R. Kelly's. R. Kelly's problems, young girls. It was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, 1999. They threw it in the slush pile, and it haunted me that entire weekend because there was a level of specificity. I came back to the office Monday, and I made a call to the Chicago Police Department. I said, I'm from the Sun-Times. I'm calling about an investigation into R. Kelly. And she laughed. And she said, oh, I wondered how long it would take. And hung up. I go into the newsroom, and the pop music critic, and I said, I think there's something here. And the city editor, Don Hayner, paired me with the courts reporter, and we worked for 6 weeks for story number 1, which was right before Christmas, 1999.
And so that's kind of what led Jim on this 2-decade journey to expose the abuses of R. Kelly.
When he started writing about it, he caught a lot of criticism. He's a white guy writing about a Black superstar and accusing this superstar basically of being a pedophile. I started writing columns that really talked about, this is not hating on a Black guy. This is not trying to bring a Black man down. This is not just beating up on someone for no reason. This is real. It's happening in our community, and we have to deal with it.
Mary put it always in context. I never said I could speak for Black women or the Black community. Mary could. I counted 36 columns in the first 2 years of this wretched story of Mary saying to the Black community, wake up, these are your daughters.
You had a lot of women who blamed the girls, and it didn't matter how much information Jim put out there. The community didn't want to believe it. It was almost like this was one big conspiracy theory against R. Kelly.
Because this story happened in Chicago, where R. Kelly grew up and had somewhat of a rags to riches type story, it really took true heroes like them to provide a voice to those who couldn't speak up or who were afraid to speak up.
It was very, very hard. There were times when I'd go home and I would just ball up, but it had to be done. Because if you don't stand up for it, who's going to stand up for it?
When you're a journalist, sometimes you choose your stories and sometimes they choose you. I was not going to let go of this as long as that phone kept ringing.
For years, both Jim and Mary were told they were wrong. They weren't given the credibility they deserved. And finally, after all these years, people have started listening.
I know Jim feels vindicated. I feel vindicated that now, right now, we are back at that same place. He's been held accountable, which it didn't have to happen if the first time around, if they had been able to prove their case against him.
If in 2008, the courts had believed these victims, had accepted the facts as they were laid out in video evidence, we may not be where we are today.
That day of the acquittal ended a lot of people thinking, justice doesn't exist. I've talked to those people for the book since, and here we are 20 years later, and they say the same thing the victims say to me. Yeah, I'm glad he's in jail, but boy, is this too little too late.
Their reporting filled in a really important piece of the story, and that is young children of color. They're not necessarily given the same kind of justice as other kids.
It was very, very difficult for girls to speak to someone else about their abuse. That's not an easy thing to do, especially if we talk about a celebrity, because a celebrity is going to turn it into a shakedown.
A lot of our work at Child USA is focused on different religious institutions and sports and Hollywood. Well, the other piece of that is the music industry. And their reporting shows that in every kind of system and in every level, that there are possible abuses of these young kids, and we can't overlook them.
The music industry has failed Black girls and the Black community by sexualizing and allowing young Black girls to be exploited in music.
What we really are talking about being needed is a change in this country where women are listened to and believed, and the many movements we're seeing are making progress, but boy, the fight ain't done.
Child USA is honored to give the voice for the Voiceless Award to Jim DeRogatis and Mary Mitchell. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jim DeRogatis, and I'd like to thank everyone at Child USA for this honor. It really means a lot to me. I spent 20 years of my life reporting this story, but I have never felt like I deserve honors like this or credit. To me, first of all, every step of the way, I got the support of the legal affairs reporter back at the Sun-Times, Abdin Palish, and the great columnist, a hero of mine, Mary Mitchell, and many, many editors and other colleagues at the Chicago Sun-Times, at the New Yorker, at BuzzFeed. But more than that, much more than that, are the dozens and dozens of brave women who did the toughest thing I think a woman can ever do, which is to tear out their soul and tell their story of sexual abuse to a reporter with the hope that other victims, in this case, many of them underage girls, could be spared the fate that the people who spoke to me were underwent. I mean, the courage and the bravery, it's heroic. And I think this award belongs more than to me, to Tiffany and to Dominique and to Jahanda and to Lizette and Patrice and Azrael and Rashona and Joy and Tracy and many, many, many others. I'll accept it. I'll accept it on their behalf. And I'll say thank you. And I don't know if they would thank anybody. I think all of this, Kelly finally being subject to some justice is, as they have told me, many of them, too little, too late. I think what we can do is to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. Thank you.
Well, good evening. Thank you so much, Child USA, for the courageous and compassionate advocacy that you have done on behalf of children. They're our most vulnerable population, and you have given them a voice. So for me to receive this Voice for the Voiceless Award means a lot. But I gotta say that this award I'm sharing with my former colleague, Jim DeRogatis. Jim has been a tireless person in terms of trying to get and bring justice for victims, alleged victims of a superstar, R. Kelly. He has worked many, 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 many years, and he has been so generous, given all the work that he's done. He has been so generous by sharing awards and honors and recognition of other people who have worked on the same mission. And so he has shared this award with me. And I think he is the one who is most deserving. But just like Child USA has done all the work, they are sharing the honors tonight with you because they recognize the work that you've done. So I'm saying congratulations to all the honorees. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this virtual celebration.